Well, for more on all of this, I'm now joined by barrister Rebecca Butler. Rebecca, thank you very much indeed for coming in. I mean, Boris Johnson, we've heard what he said, Brexit before Christmas if he wins. How likely is that, though?
Oh, highly likely. Highly likely. I think Boris's problem today is that the polls are predicting the high numbers of seats that he's so desperate to have. But of course, one of his concerns is those polls will keep people away from the polling booth. So I think that was behind his press conference today, warning people of a hung parliament.
Indeed, and also, as you say, complacency then, if you think you have a high number. Let's look at that YouGov poll then. It suggests a big majority. 68 seats, and we can start to see the graphic there unfolding. That's based on old data, though, is it?
Well, the problem with polls is that 98% of them tend to be wrong anyway, and that, you know, on a first-past-the-post system, particularly in the current picture where we've got the Brexit Party and the Lib Dems splitting votes differently between the metropolitan areas and then what they call the sort of the red wall seats in the Midlands, I think that the picture could be changed on the day. So I think all polls should be taken with a huge degree of caution as usual. A 68-seat majority would be very favourable for Boris Johnson. Though.
Yep. As you say, particularly to try and get that Brexit deal through there.
Indeed.
But as you say, there is a chance here that voters and the party themselves, the Tory party that is, could be complacent with a prediction like that, couldn't they?
Yes, well, I think the Tory Remain voters particularly tend to be in the metropolitan areas. I think they are the voters that he's very worried about for complacency. They may lend their votes to the Lib Dems on this occasion, and I do think that is a big risk, and I think that really was behind what he was saying today. With Boris Johnson, there's always a subliminal message in everything he says.
Indeed. Let's also then look at the chances of there being a hung parliament. Jeremy Corbyn seems to have more chance then than Boris Johnson does in that instance, doesn't he?
Indeed he does, but maybe not Jeremy Corbyn himself. Maybe the Labour Party could lead a coalition on the other side of the political lines. I honestly don't think Jeremy Corbyn would be popular with a Lib Dem coalition, and they may be lining up alternative leaders to take over what they call a national unity or a coalition of Remain parties. But yes, it is possible that SNP and Lib Dem would join in with one or two Greens with the Labour seats, certainly.
I mean, the SNP, they could be the power brokers in this, couldn't they?
They definitely could be, yes. I think Lib Dem is not going to do as well as they'd hoped. I think they have had to clip their ambitions a little bit because I think the electoral calculus is currently looking at 12 to 13 seats for Lib Dem, which is pretty much what they got in 2017. So, yes, definitely a risk of a hung parliament if that happens.
Let's also then look at the role of the media, as you're here looking at the role of the media. I mean, Boris Johnson, it seems, has been sort of dodging debates. I mean, perhaps it's the prospect of an Andrew Neil Morning, as we saw with Jeremy Corbyn. Could that harm Boris Johnson?
I think one of the problems with Boris Johnson in this election, sort of the last couple of weeks, is that he's treading very carefully, and I think it's been described as holding a mean vase skating on ice. I think he's genuinely worried about messing up. And one of the frustrations, I think, for Tory voters is they just wish that Boris Johnson's real personality would come out, because he is quite a flawed individual. They all are. And in many ways, people will forgive him for that if he just acts as himself. I think this whole issue of having a mantra during an election campaign is quite irritating for the electorate. So if only he would come out and be Boris Johnson, funny, flawed, but incredibly bright, I don't think that would do him any harm. Of course, you end up with conspiracy theories if he's not actually putting himself in front of the cameras. And I would hope to see him in front of Andrew Neil, because all the others did and had a rough time with him.
Indeed, it could be interesting. Damned if you do and damned if you don't, perhaps, as well.
Yeah.
Rebecca Butler, many thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.